Welcome to O-Talkin' with Dave. Here's Dave.
Hey, how we doing out there? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're thriving, as a matter of fact. I'm Top Shelf, keeping it going. I get a lot of feedback recently about people struggling with rejection or being told no. Have you been told no lately? This almost is a good follow-up to my, Toughen Up Buttercup. How we take and respond to no or rejection tells us a lot about ourselves. I know as a kid, my goodness, I grew up with no. Grew up with it. I know my parents, I guess they, by today's standards, would definitely be considered strict. We had a lot of rules. I mean, you do your work before you play. You got chores. Everybody has responsibilities. Certain words you don't say. Things you don't do. Got no a lot when I wanted the fun cereal. I'll tell you that. You know, how you go through and you pick out, okay, what's got the toy? Or what, the commercials you see. No fun cereals, really. Although when my sisters got out of the house, I was older, but we had the rules. They were a little laxer. Laxer, is that a word? And two, by the time, I was the third, two older sisters, by the time they got to me, I mean, they were worn down quite a bit. But still a lot of no's, a lot of curfews. The creature comforts had everything I needed, but the creature comforts I'd buy myself, with my yard cutting money. Still got a lot of no's. And they're necessary. I looked up the effects of no because some people, it carries on far past childhood. I mean, it's almost like a no or rejection. It's almost like an assassination attempt, or they take it very personal where others don't. So I looked up a couple of things about the no, and the part of the brain that registers physical pain, that's the same one that processes rejection. So it can almost feel physically painful to get a no. And psychologically, I know, you count on something, you really want something. It could be everything from a toy as a kid to, I don't know, a girlfriend as a teenager. You get older, be able to ask somebody to marry you. Usually that's a yes. That'd be a tough no. A useful one, though, and we'll talk more about that. Then older, I'm in sales, man. No's. I get a steady diet of no's. Okay. And then you hope over time you get your share of yeses. So that emotional distress, it affects some people more than others. And even recalling the memories can bring back those pains. And it is almost like a physical pain. So this rejection, the no's, all of these things, they're common. I think they should be expected. And in a lot of ways, I think they're needed. I do. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, what are the common areas, how we react to it, how to hopefully manage that better and move on. This is something that I get pretty often. Public speaking is what I do. If I'm talking to 100 people, I've got 20 no's right there when I get up to the podium and go, how y'all doing? Yeah, just, oh no, immediately. To me, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And I'd like to say I get more yeses than no's. I don't know. But I don't let it bother me like I used to. And maybe I can give you some words of encouragement here. If a no just goes straight to your heart. So the different kinds of rejection, that's what we're talking about. A no is rejection. One of the, I'll do 4 or 5 here, but the first one is personal rejection. This could be, in social situations, if you're being excluded or ignored or just dismissed. That's socially that can happen a ton, and even I'm talking about social media as well, but just that personal rejection. I know my wife, she some days her worth is how many likes she got on a particular post. And not her self-worth, but that really makes her feel good. It's like a hug or a high five. But imagine, in the personal rejection, I haven't had a lot of romantic declines. I mean, I've been with my wife since we were both toddlers. But it's out there, and I know it is so painful, especially if one side is more emotionally invested than the other. It used to drive people I know, maybe my daughter or my wife more than me and my son, but to not be invited to something, a social gathering of some sort, or a wedding, or whatever it might be, to not be invited. That just doesn't bother me. But I guess, I don't know. What do you think? Do females have a harder time with this? And I know it depends on the event. Of course it depends on the event. Then I know it has gone so far. People get so hurt by being rejected or not invited or not included that you lose friendships over it. But that personal rejection, it's real. It is very real, and those really hang with you. Then you got professional rejection. I remember I got out of college, and you have to manage your expectations. However, you think, well, I am educated now. Okay, yeah, but what do I lack? Experience. Now, I started my own lawn cutting business at 13. I was the assistant to the assistant night shift produce manager at Food World. I mean, doesn't that experience count for something? Nope. People, you come out, you're ready to go, ready to get the world by the tail. Sorry. And then, I one time I looked for employment with like this. I was in Alabama, the state of Alabama. All right, and it was a little bit discouraging because you look and it's stacked against you. That white privilege didn't really kick in when I needed a job with the state of Alabama because, first of all, I was not a minority. I hadn't served in any armed forces, and I wasn't a woman. I wasn't even trying to be a woman. But you had all these things that if you were those things, you got points added to your total and a better chance of getting hired. Well, I found out very quickly, oh, that's rough. And so, you go out and you find your jobs. You start, kicking the tires on some different careers. I remember one job I really wanted. So this is in the late 80s, out of school, newly married. The good jobs back then and what I wanted to do was pharmaceutical sales. That was the thing. And you see them. They hired a lot of athletes, ex-athletes. But I would see these people. My father-in-law had a pharmacy, and I had a ton of friends I played tennis with who were dentists or pharmacists or doctors, and so I knew the community. And I got to the final interview with this company. It was just me and one other person. I didn't know who the other person was. And they went with the other person. I was devastated. I already had, I'm going to wear suits. I'm going to do this. This is elite. It was great. In my mind, it was very confident. I did well in the interviews. Nope. They went with the other guy. And I was devastated. And then later you find out. I became friends with the guy that I worked with. And we would talk about, he used to work in pharmaceutical sales. 10 years later, I was like, oh, really? Who'd you work with? And he told me. I went, really? I got down to just me and one other person in that interview. And he said, how long ago was that? This one of my good friends. He's the guy that beat me out for the job. And it still stung. I wasn't mad at him. It wasn't his decision. But you have those times where you're rejected and you really counted on something. Or a promotion. I can remember I was with a very large company. And I was within, there was a position available, and two positions available. And so I went for a different position because my friend went for one closer to home, and he couldn't take the other position because he was dating someone that worked there. So I took the other position, went for that, and he went for the one. Well, he got his promotion. I didn't get mine. They put it on hold. I was within 6 months of saying, forget this. It hurt so bad because I was doing the right thing. I was like, good Lord, I don't get credit for being a nice guy. God's telling me no now. I'm thinking, well, what's the use? Turns out it was a great thing. I eventually got promoted at the right time, and that set my whole career ahead of me. That's what led me to the West Coast, is what, I managed almost half the company, and it's a $3 billion company, and it taught me so many lessons. It still hurt. The professional rejection. That hurt. And as a guy, a lot of our self-worth is around work. That's what we do. That's what we talk about. Guys get together, talk about sports, work, maybe a couple of things we shouldn't say here, but you know what they are. And so that's why I think the professional one hurts guys a little more than gals. Can I say gals without people getting offended? I know who's going to be offended. One of them is Ronnie from Western Kentucky. She gets so mad at me. She'll get over it. Yeah, I'll get an email. So you got the personal rejection, the professional rejection, and then this one is especially tough, and I know a lot of friends with that whole creative rejection. And it can be anything from school or higher education or thesis, or if you have if you're working on something that you have to put together a paper, or maybe even research, or whatever the case would be. The creative side, the artistic side of people. I know people who have tried to make it in the music business for a long time. Let me tell you something. Next to a salesperson, we're all in sales, by the way, to be shot down, the creative side, people trying to make it in the music business pay their dues, or they're just selected. And that hurts so bad to see somebody putting their heart and soul into it and can't catch a break, and someone else with lesser talent or lesser creative skills, because they fit the image they want, they just get lifted up. That is the kind of rejection I can see being devastated. I've always managed my expectations around the creative side. So the music industry, I play in cover bands. I played in some original music, and I absolutely loved it. To have your heart and soul just shot down is not good enough, or not the right time. And many times the difference in yes or no there is whether you stay in pursuit of those dreams, because it's not free. It is not free. So the creative or academic rejection. And then the social group rejection. This is a little different than what I meant earlier as far as personal. That social group rejection would be like to not be a part of a group or a community. Like it's more than just a one-on-one thing. It'd be like a sorority, or just a group of friends, or a club, or could be, part of a foursome on a golf team to play every Saturday with these guys. I'd like to get in with those guys. Or I remember when I was younger, for the older guys to call me down to play basketball with the adults rather than with the young guys. That's there's a lot involved in that, and I guess a lot of this could apply to social media as well, as far as that social group rejection. And where this turns bad is sometimes it's bullying. Yeah, they decide who is and who's not, and you're not good enough. Sometimes it's not bullying. You just got told no. Toughen up, buttercup. You just got told no. It's just, it's tough. I know when we moved to Chattanooga, most of the people that we associated with were from there. And they're very cliquey. I don't think they would mind me saying this. Then we had some friends that had moved there and gotten in with a group, and they knew us, And so just by our relationship, we're part of a different group. We found out we didn't really want to be a part of that other group anyway. So it usually works out. We'll talk more about that. And then the final, romantic rejection. I'll tell you, and I'll just be full disclosure. We're friends, right? We're close. We're a close-knit group here. The only person that's ever broken my heart is my wife. Oh, I remember a couple of them. We dated for 5 or 6 years. We'll say 6 years. And, we broke up a couple of times. Yeah. Oh, I was heartbroken. Of course, I didn't act like it. And I jumped right back on that horse. We never broke up for more than 2 or 3 months. And then, of course, we were just on a break. And then we got back together. Other than those two, I've been, there's other disappointments and things, but romantically, I am so lucky. I've been with my wife. We've been married 37 years. So I don't have that, but I've been around people who have. And I honestly don't know how some of them can get over it. I know a lot of people have been married 25, 30 years and just split up. And I don't know. To be cheated on, I don't think I can handle that. There's a couple of times, and I told me and my wife kid about this, but jealousy, I'm a horrible jealous person. Oh, it consumes me. If I think I've got something to be jealous about, especially with her, it would consume me when we were dating, and I was not at my best. To be jealous of the things that people have or something like that, I don't know. But as far as romantic rejection, I don't know how I would handle that. I'm telling you, if it's not mutual. I mean, you decide to go separate ways. I get it. I don't consider being rejected on a dating app romantic rejection. I guess it could be, though. I guess you could consider that. But going through a breakup or a divorce, that's to me, that would be the rejection. It would probably be the end of me. And thankfully, I don't think it's going to happen. Those different kinds of rejection, our brain handles it just like pain. So, and professional, just to go back to that too, that would be, a lot of people don't survive in sales because they can't handle the rejection. They can't handle no. Let me tell you something. I ain't afraid of no. My friends who are close to my age and still single or newly single or whatever, going out there and asking, I see it all the time when we're playing, people asking other people to dance. It might not be a romantic thing. They just want to dance, want a dance partner, but they risk no. I see it constantly. And most of the time it's yes, and they get out there and they're having a good time. Being afraid of no can cripple you, and it can cripple your chances to hit a goal that you need, or self-esteem, all these things. So you have all of these, but one reason that rejection, it's not only normal, it's inevitable. It's gonna happen. No matter how great and talented and rich, good looking, all of this, it is inevitable. And so a few reasons why. And if you think about it, I think you'll agree. There are just differences in people, in their preferences or their perspective, where they are in their life, their world view, all of this stuff. And when you have that, you're going to have difference of ideas, and people will reject your idea at some point. It could also be, it's just a disagreement. No matter what your ideas are, or your personality, what you bring to the table, I am not for everybody. I have references on that. But people have different tastes. You don't all like the same food. You don't all like the same restaurants. Different stuff. It's gonna happen. And different people take rejection or no to heart quicker at different times. One time no may not matter. The next time it's devastating. So different preferences or perceptions. When I interviewed for that job, it wasn't that I wasn't qualified. This other person, based on all the situations, He had a tiebreaker in there. It wasn't that I sucked. I just, maybe he sucked less. I don't know. So differences in preferences and perspectives. Another thing is it's inevitable because we all have opportunities to improve. And getting a no or rejection is that opportunity. And it's not that we're so bad many times. It's we have some improvables, and you have to get no or rejections in order to work on that. Because if you just got yeses all the time, you wouldn't feel the need to change anything. So it is necessary so that we can reach our potential. I mean, you look at a writer. When I wrote my books, I didn't have to worry about this a lot because I'm not writing works of art. I'm not trying to write something to compete with To Kill a Mockingbird or Catcher in the Rye or some of those romantic novels. I'm not trying to do that. And it was my content. So I didn't have to worry about that. I know a lot of people who have tried to break into journalism, and they get so many things rejected, and it caused them to improve. Okay, we'll do this. I learn. You get told no 10 times. Hopefully you hear no, and here's why. Now you've got 10 different critiques and learning opportunities. So that 11th one, it's going to be much better. Some would say 10 times better than the first one. So that's why it's necessary and inevitable so that we can learn and grow from it. Then a lot of times there's just limited resources and competition hitting you in the face. Job applications. That's a big one because you've got personalities within the group you know nothing about. I mean, if it's your internal, you know a little bit about it. But if you're going for a brand new company, you don't know the team dynamic. You don't know all of that. And so you don't know who your competition is. All you can do is put your best foot forward, but you can't really cater it to anything without some sort of no or rejection. I know tennis-wise, when I played tennis in college, I knew our people. I knew their strengths and weaknesses. But we would go up against a bigger school. My goodness gracious, it's a whole new level. I got rejected really quickly by the score many times just because the competition was so much greater. And I had, honestly, we had limited resources at my school as far as, the training and the different facilities that we had compared to the big schools. So it was inevitable that I was going to have a learning curve there. So that's very important. Excuse me. It's a real show. Timing. I can't tell you the number of times I either was rejected or told no because it was just maybe the right thing, just the wrong time in my life. Later, 20 years after I got rejected for that first pharmaceutical job that I wanted, it was down to 2 people. The job came open again. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, this will be a slam dunk. Now I got tons of experience. I worked for a pharmaceutical company now. I've started my own businesses. I got more experience or whatever. But I didn't want it because I found out the job had changed. I had several people in pharmaceutical sales who just overnight they decided, nope, we're going to cut back on 50% of the workforce. It wasn't the job it was before. I probably could have gotten that job. The pay was the same. 20 years later, salary was the same. The territory was a fourth of the size. And so it was a different job. The timing was different. And oh, by the way, the guy they hired for me, as I said, instead of me, he was doing something else within 10 years afterwards. So the timing wasn't right. There's a silver lining in timing, though. I believe in perfect timing. Things happen for a reason. There's a reason you don't get certain things at certain times. There's also you learn from it. And so timing is crucial. Your business pitch, you're doing a presentation. There's a lot to be said for what time of day. You give that presentation at 9 in the morning. It's gold. You're the last one at 4:30 in the afternoon. They're tired. They may have lost interest. They may have already heard one and made up their mind. And so because yours is later, that could be the killer. That's why I don't do O-Talks in the afternoon anymore, by the way. I do them in the mornings. But timing is crucial. How quickly you respond, how slowly you respond, your cadence, all of that is so important. And then I just believe the reason it's inevitable and necessary, it's just part of being a human. No, rejection, it happens to everybody. That's something we can all share. If we were in a group of 4 or 5 people right now, we could bring up a category about rejection, or we would all have a story. We'd all have a story for every category because we've all experienced it. Even spoiled brats, even buttercups have been told no at some point. And if they haven't, they will. Most successful people are the ones who face it and then persevere, becoming resilient. And that's what I want to get to. You can talk about all these people who rejected. My goodness, how many times did Abraham Lincoln run for office before he got elected to anything, much less president? The Stephen King and J.K. Rowling, so many books rejected, became bestsellers. Thomas Edison, I think one of the things he said, no, I'm not, I don't know, something about, I don't know the best way, but I'm successful because I found 1,000 ways that won't work. So that was science telling him no, because he didn't get there. So let's talk about some reasons why rejection is not only necessary, it can lead to positive circumstances. And I'll try not to be too personal on this. It is so true, though. We talk about opportunities for growth. It makes you tougher. Makes you more resilient. It brings coaching. And if you, instead of just getting mad at the critique, listen to what the critique is saying. Oh, the toughest teachers I had in school were usually the best ones later on, and I appreciated them more. An easy A, it's an easy A. You didn't really earn it. That job rejection there. I knew what I needed. I knew what I needed to get what I thought I wanted. And when I didn't get that promotion when I wanted, the turning point when I decided I was going to leave. I don't leave this company. What's wrong with them? I was a spoiled brat, really, at the time, I guess you could say. And then I had a very good person tell me, you're never going to get that promotion until you're wildly successful in your current role. And he wasn't really talking to me. I was just around him when he said it. And I think he was talking to me. But I took it as just good advice. And I decided I'm just going to buckle down and do the best I can until something else comes along. Once I did that, something else came along, and it was great. And it was that promotion. And we've talked about that. But that critique, or what you learn and how you respond, it's so important for growth opportunities. So that it will always be there. You get told no 10 times, a yes is coming. You have to get so many no's before you get a yes. You ask enough girls to dance, somebody will. You ask enough girls out on a date, somebody's going to say yes. You play hard enough, your skills are going to get honed. You're going to make the team. It's true. It's necessary. Then another reason there's silver linings and no's is what you want might not be the best thing for you. How many people have taken this job, then something better comes along, but they just took this job. or they didn't know something better was there. You go back to timing. It's not right. Sometimes that rejection saves us from a path we're not supposed to be on anyway. And if you're not to get religious, but I said religious and but back to back. Somebody needs to listen to what I'm saying here. What's the song? Thank God for unanswered prayers. Yeah, because what you want is not necessarily what's best for you. You don't know what's coming. You don't know what's around the corner. You don't know who you're going to meet. And the timing, if you believe in the timing, you're a good person. Good things are going to happen. So you get turned down for one job. That leads you to finding a position that you're better suited for. You don't have the experience on this, and this. You do for something else. I remember I wanted to play college basketball so bad. So bad. This is before the 3-point shot. And that's all I had was a shot, really. And I really wasn't good enough. Let's just be blunt. The college basketball scout for our area, he knew me. I had some things that caught his eye. Wasn't good enough. He was also the tennis coach. And that opportunity to sit on a bench for a college basketball team, work hard and sit, and I wouldn't have played much, if at all. Instead, I got a full ride on a tennis scholarship because the exposure and going for something, the timing wasn't right for that. It was perfect for something else. Had no idea. So being turned down for something, yeah, it hurts. You have to be resilient in the fact of you can't just quit. So keep going, and we're going to get to more of that. So the resilience I'm talking about and that emotional strength, I've talked about how Mom said don't ever pray for patience or humility because the learning curve is it's tough. You're going to be have your patience tested, and you're going to be humbled. The same thing is around emotional strength. Being told no and rejection, you've got to build up those rejection muscles, how you take it. And there's only one way to do it, is deal with it. They're going to come. It builds mental toughness. Learning to manage disappointment, it builds resilience. And then you're going to handle things better. Other people are going to watch you handle these things better. And it is a skill set that probably as valuable as any out there. Athletes who have repeated setbacks, just around, whether it's injury. I see so many athletes, and you see them. I can think of several college football players who, they had so much promise, but they had these nagging injuries. And now I see them speaking. They speak all over. And, a lot of it is because of, they could have been a great pro and maybe made more money and all of this, but now they're out there talking about, because it's very high profile, how their dreams were shattered. But they kept going. They were stronger emotionally than they were physically. And that resonates with people. People love to hear them talk because they're thinking, man, with all the setbacks, that could have been me. And I'm complaining about, whatever. So it builds that emotional strength. And I tell you what it also does. It gives you clarity. Maybe not in the moment, but as you reflect, and especially when you look back, it helps you understand what really matters here. What am I trying to accomplish? Looking big picture. And it helps you align your efforts toward the right goal. I wanted to be in pharmaceutical sales for the image. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, trust me. With my ego, that'd been the worst thing could have possibly happened to me. Yeah, I always said it's a good thing God made me bald and portly, because if I was good looking, my ego would make me intolerable. So it helps with clarifying your goals and your motivations and your priorities. It's so important. And everybody can be told no or rejected. Everybody. And then also, it sparks change. You got to change something. You didn't get it. All right, well, you're going to just give up? No. Need to do maybe some innovation. We got to change something. Don't just, if you go in and you get told no and you don't change something, well, then that's on you. So being told no and rejection, it helps get rid of complacency or apathy. I mean, quitting is not an option. We can't do that. If you were a quitter, I don't think you would still be listening to 35 minutes of this podcast. No, you're not going to quit. You're going to change. You're going to shuck and jive a little bit. You're going to listen to people. You're going to take their advice. You're going to be given it too. That's the beautiful thing about this. As you develop the skill to handle no and rejection, people are going to notice that and say, how do you do that? Then you're going to tell them, I haven't always been this way. Oh my goodness. And you tell them the story and then they can relate to that. And it helps other people. So rejection, it's going to happen. It's a stepping stone. It's a stepping stone. Look at it as that instead of just a roadblock or a slammed door in your face. Think about it as, I got to get through this to get to that. And after you reject it enough, you're going to be more sure of that. It's what I want. So that's it's inevitable and it's necessary. Let's talk about, how do I become more resilient, emotionally tough? That's the key. As we look at this, and it's what I get more than anything. People will see someone doing something, and they don't realize how long it took to get to that point. I mean, I was so painfully shy as a kid, I'd rather you kill me than make me stand in front of a group. Now, you would never think that. None of my friends would ever think that have only known me for 10 years. There are people that will comment on my podcast saying, I remember you from high school. I don't think I ever heard you talk, because I like the small groups. I was a big cut up, but not in front of everybody. That changes. So people don't know that. They don't know the path. Not that I am especially talented. I'm just saying, sometimes your career finds you, and it will take all of those no's and all of that learning curve, and it will just rise. And that's what you're meant to do. If you're an engineer or a pharmacist or someone in the disciplines, okay. Just because you've been doing it a long time doesn't mean you're good at it. But sometimes your career will find you. So how do we become more resilient? I think the first thing you need to do, and I believe it's one of the most, I guess it could be called a skill, but it's one of the most useful steps, is reframe the whole rejection. Reframe it. It's not failure. It's a stepping stone. It's part of a process. It's not an event. Success is not an event. Getting what you want, it's not like the lottery where you put it in and you just hope and hope and hope and I won. Please. You're going to be rejected a lot if that's what you want to do. Reframe it as, all right, I'm getting feedback. I'm not a failure. This was not good enough. In this situation, I'm not the choice. But I haven't failed. And if you can do that and take useful feedback, I even in romance, you ask somebody out on a date, well, no, I don't know. Is it your hair? Is it the way you talk? Are you inappropriate? Do you not have a nice car? Is your music blaring that they don't like, or you have a funny laugh, or I don't know, you had a booger in your nose when you ask them out? You need to know. And then you can correct those things or adjust those things. Or, I remember a good buddy of mine, he asked this girl out, and the first thing she asked is, what kind of car do you drive? Well, that was rejection, but it also, in his mind, was like, oh, thank goodness she said that. I do not want to go out with her now. So it was rejection, but it also got some useful information. So reframe this. It's not failure. It's part of the process. So once you do that, then you can start focusing on some other things. All right, I'm not out. Let's get back in the ring and go another round. It helps you to strengthen your self-awareness. All right, what do I have to offer here in any of the categories we talked about earlier? And then you can regulate your emotions a little better. If I know, just take it, let's go back to tennis. If I'm going against somebody, I need to know what I do really well and what I don't do well. And find ways to, when someone sees my weakness and tries to take advantage of it, how do I counter that? So that's in tennis. And as far as rejection, do the same thing emotionally. Here are my strengths. Here are my weaknesses. Do I focus on my strengths alone and make those so strong that my weaknesses are diminished? Or do I focus on those too? Yep. And there you do the whole list of pros and cons, and then you make that decision. But you're aware of what they are, and it helps you cope with whatever comes along. You expect rejection around certain areas. You don't expect it in others. And then you get to the whole competition and things like that. It helps with your coping strategies and mechanisms to where it's not so emotionally, you're not so devastated. And it happens in all the kinds of rejections we talked about. And then you got to set new goals. Sometimes it's, all right, I wanted this. Based on what I found out and based on my skill set, I think I'll redirect it and go for this. At one time, I had two different opportunities. One was in Florida and one was in California. And based on me and my wife, our likes and our goals and some of the things we wanted, Florida looked great. And then things happened to where that was not an option anymore. We still had California, and it ended up being the right choice. Because we managed our expectations, we got to redirect now. Okay, that's not, and it turns out it was absolutely the best thing for us, which usually is the case. We redirected not at what we're going to miss because we're not going here. Look at all we're going to get for going here. And so being that resilient and understanding that I didn't not get what I wanted, I got what we needed. And you find a way to move on, redirect, set new goals. I'm not saying by setting new goals you're lowering your standards. No, just don't let no kill you. Don't let rejection defeat you. And then to go back to the resilience, another thing is you build resilience by understanding what's normal. Understanding what's normal. The more you expose yourself to rejection, the less intimidated you are by that. It's normal. It is totally normal. So by exposing yourself, putting yourself out there, you treat it as just a natural part of it. And the motivation to keep going and persist, that is going to build some muscle memory in you that it's going to make you successful in everything you do eventually. You don't give up. You don't give up. I remember several athletes that I've been around many times. They weren't as talented as me. Psh, come on, look at me. But they always beat me. I had better strokes. I had a better shot. I had some things that were much better. And technically, I was a better player in a couple of sports. They had the tenacity. They had to work harder. They were shorter than me. They had to run faster than me. They had all these other things. And I remember one time I was really upset about losing. And that same coach told me, he said, look, you're a better tennis player, but he's a better winner. He was not going to give up until he beat you. And he did. Well, okay. Well, thanks, Coach. I appreciate. Woo! This is Newt Rockney stuff here. He was right, because that guy had been told no. He had not made teams before. He was too short to play on some teams. He when I was told yes, he was told no, and that no motivated him, and then he normalized setbacks. This is part of it. He was used to it, and it didn't slow him down. I can't stress that enough. Emotionally, that is so important. Not to the point that you don't care or you don't hear it. It just doesn't define you or slow you down. That's the difference in success or failure. That's also the difference in happiness or misery. I believe it. And then you also you've got such inner confidence when you're not afraid of rejection or defined by it or being told no. You've got such self-confidence, it cultivates that attitude in other people. It does. People will ask, how in the world do you do this? How in the world? Well, here's how. You work ethic. You get through it. You persist. And I can't say resilience enough. You got to be tough. You gotta get out there and skin your knees a little bit. So overcoming it, those are steps to deal with getting used to it. But it's still going to happen. It's still going to, and it's still going to hurt. I mean, you look at in sports, you look at these people at the pinnacle of their career. I think it really hits too when it's time for some of them to retire. It's inevitable, and you just see the pain. And some of them, you got to be resilient to admit when it's over. That's very tough. And you see some people play too long. However, I think there's ways to overcome its impact on you once it happens. So let me go through a few of those. First of all, you got to accept it. You got to acknowledge that you're upset with it. You don't like it, and I'm upset, and here's why. I mean, it can hurt your feelings, it can hurt your pride, it can hurt all these things, but you've got to absorb it and acknowledge that, you know what, I'm upset about this, and that's okay. I'm still not defined by it. Take time, talk to somebody. A lot of people, recently lost a lot of jobs, and they felt like failures. If they didn't have someone to talk to, that was a bad thing. And I'm talking about COVID, when a lot of people were cutting workforces, or people, it's still going to happen when people are trying to get more efficient. You feel like a failure. They picked me. They said I'm not good enough. They said I'm not welcome. Well, that's tough. You got to admit how you feel about it. And then the second thing is you got to keep the negative self-talk down. Negative self-talk, and I catch myself doing it sometimes. Realizing that, it's like, what in the world am I talking about? The glass is not half empty. The timing's going to be perfect. I'll get through this. Let's, pull up your bootstraps and let's go. If you think I'll never succeed, you're right. Or this is it. This is the end of me. At this time in my life, I can't believe this has happened. I'm doomed. Yeah, you're right. No, it's a setback. You're going to overcome it. I've faced challenges like this before, and I'm coming out, and I'm going to hit the next one with this knowledge. So many times. I look at things a lot different now. I mean, when I grew up, my dad worked at a plant for 36 years and retired. That's what you do. I tried to get a job there too, to work 36 years and retire. Oh no, that would have been horrible. So it doesn't define you. And you can't succumb to the negative self-talk. The experience that you're getting. Every experience, it empowers you. It doesn't define you, and you learn from it. I'll talk to people People will ask questions. People will do different things, but whether I'm in a consultant role or a manager role or a project manager or anything like this. Someone told me one time, the more you know, the more you'll use. And it's so true, because something will happen and I will respond. And that response may come from a chance encounter I had with someone in an elevator 30 years ago. Because I believe everything in our life happens, and it's just we know everything that we need to know. It's just a matter of recall and application. So learning from those experiences, you learn a lot more from rejection or no than a yes. Because yes, okay, that's the end of it. Now you just proceed. No or rejection, now you got some work to do. Now you got something you can focus on. Then another thing with rejection, you got to shift the focus on not what just happened. You've acknowledged that. You've grabbed the experience. It's just a setback. No negative self-talk. All right, now let me focus on what I can control. I had improvables. All right, do I want to improve those? My weaknesses, do I focus on that? Or I just bowl them over with my positives? You've got to decide on what you can control. If you didn't get accepted by a group, or get into a college you wanted, or I don't know, the strongest candidate for a job, all of these things where you could be rejected. All right, well, let's find the next opportunity. What is it? What is available out there? What can I do? Not things that you can't control, which is kind of like the self-talk, only there's action to this. Keeping negative self-talk away, that is the action. What am I going to do next? What's my next goal? And what can I control about this? That is a positive step forward. And then the last thing, surround yourself with positive people. Please. And if you don't have any positive people around you, we got to help you find some. I mean, there's people with like-minded people with certain interests. But if you think right now about, let's just say 4 of your closest friends, if something happened to you that was negative, who would be the first to call you? Who would be the first to pat you on the back? Who would be the first one that you would call? Are any of those 4, and it could be 10, but any of those 4, are they a negative person? Are they gonna wallow in your defeat with you, or maybe even take a little, yeah, it happened to me too, and they want to talk about how bad their defeat was or their rejection? Stay away from these people, especially when you're struggling with no or rejection. And that is why in all situations that we're talking about, in many of the podcasts, surround yourself with positive people. No and rejection is going to happen. There's no if to it. And then when you have those people that you can count on and talk to, cry on their shoulder, all of that stuff, it makes it easier. And then you're going to go through it, and then they're going to need your shoulder as well. It's going to happen. It's the human condition. So I hope this happens. I'll hit those last 5 again. Acknowledge the no and the rejection. Understand that. Understand how you feel about that. Get rid of that negative self-talk. Learn from the experience. Okay, what did I learn from this? What do I need to change? What do I need to do differently? Then focus on what you can control, and then surround yourself with positive people. If you're negative, all right, well, some people can't just change that, like flipping on a light switch. But when you surround yourself with positive people, that helps you. So please do that. I hope this helps. I hope you don't get a no or get rejected today. Chances are pretty good that somewhere you will, but it's going to happen coming up, and hopefully you can deal with this. A lot of people have talked to me about this, and they say that this affects their demeanor, this affects their self-worth and a lot of things, and they've always had trouble with it. Don't blame it on, it's not hereditary. You have some bad examples. It's not hereditary. You can get through this. Thanks so much for the support, Reach out to me at david@otalks.com or dave@otalks.com. Instagram, Twitter, all of those, TikToks, all of the, all that is, we're there. I saw I'm on 22 different platforms, 13 countries, goodness, 200 or 300 cities all over the world. Can you believe that? But I appreciate the support more than you know. But most of all, I appreciate you. Talking with Dave. Giddy up.